Okay, so the idea of this activity was just to bring things back from what we talked about on Friday. So I started off class with a lecture why herpetology should not exist and the reasons it's problematic. And I wanted to bring it back and talk about maybe why we should actually have this class. The idea of this was to revisit this with your small groups. So I'm interested in the answers that you put in the survey. But I'm curious to know if any group has like an answer they're burning to share out and they think is important and want to share with the whole class. We can do that or we cannot. It's up to you. But if you want to, I think now is your moment. All right, let's not then. Cool. I'll look at the survey. You guys had discussions with the groups. That's fine. Not everything has to be brought back to the full group. That's totally great. Let's keep class moving then and go for our next activity, which is our Syllabus Kahoot. So go ahead and get back to your seat. I'm going to get this set up for you right now. All right, there we go. Go ahead and log in, please. I'm going to make sure we can hear the Kahoot music. Yeah, I get a kick out of the generated names, so I left it at that.
I didn't even know that was an option.
Oh yeah.
No herp names. Oh,
there's some. There's.
Got a better one. Captain Hamster. It was Joyful Lizard. Oh, that's great.
So sharp. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. We should have 27 of you on here. So I got 2 people need to get on. Dr. Raven. That sounds like a sitcom TV show name. Isn't there a show about Raven? Like That's So Raven, right? Not like, yeah. That's like the girl, like when she's older, she grows up and she's Dr. Raven. I want to see what we do. Have Joyful Lizard. I'm gonna guess Amazing Gator.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2.
That's the only 2. I mean, unless you want to count birds, right?
Yeah.
So hey, no.
Yeah. Okay, we won't count birds. Cute lark. That's endearing. All right, we got 26. One person who needs help getting on there. Count them on. We should have 27. Golden rabbit. Good. If someone's still not on, who's not on? It's not embarrassing. We can help you. Right? There's 24, 8, 12, 16, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Double check, make sure you're on there. Someone's missing. Make sure. What? I do love a good mystery. No, everyone's on there?
Oh, wait, there we go.
All right, good job. All right, you guys ready for this? So this is just a totally goofy way. The point of this is that we're talking about the syllabus, right? And it's just a fun way to do it instead of me standing here reading the boring syllabus to you. It's a really great syllabus, but it would be boring if I read it. I should clarify. So I just want to articulate, that's the reason we're doing this. Also, if you win, you will receive the acclaim of your classmates and your instructor. Perhaps not your undergraduate TA though. Princeton's a tough cookie. So we'll see. So do your best. And I don't know where the sound is. It's not working. Oh, I know where.
It's just quiet.
Is it there?
Yeah.
I hear it slightly. Yeah.
If you look up where the microphone thing, you just slide it up. Just slide it up all the way.
Let's see. Okay, open hours, aka office hours. Yes, Mondays from noon to 2 in this room. So you have questions, concerns, want to chat, want to see more stuff, want to re-examine the specimens in class. This is the place to be. Princeton will be here on most, if not all, Mondays as well. Come on by. Sound good? All right, let's see. Remember, you get points here for being fast and correct. So Gentle Panther on top by 1. Oh, dang, look at that. Who's Gentle Panther? Nice job. Abby is Gentle Panther and Focused Hen. All right, nice job. Okay, good, good. I don't know where the music is. All right, that's there it is. Right, as your syllabus outlines, I don't do extra credit, and I have a link to a post that explains kind of some of my rationale for that in class. It is a herpetology class, so catching snakes and bringing them to class is welcome, kind of. But unfortunately, it won't get you extra credit. It's a policy I have in all my classes, and then just make it clear from the first day that that there isn't extra credit to be had. All of the course points and how you earn those points is outlined in detail in the syllabus too, so you can check that out. Those of you that have had me in class before are familiar with that. Let's see a gentle, Focused Hen, rising up. Is that you, Michaela? Yeah, okay. You took over. Epic Wildcat. Dang, that's intense. Who's Epic Wildcat? Nice. You should keep that as like your stage name. Like when you become a hip hop star, you can. Good. There's 3 lecture exams in class. They're on your syllabus. The approximate dates are on there as well. Oh, there's 2. Oh, sorry. That's my bad. Oh no, I screwed this. Okay, so this is screw up the scoring. Oh, dang it. No, that's my bad. All right, there's 2. Sorry. I just wanted to give Tropical Possum. I know why I did that too. Who's Tropical Possum? You're welcome. Good. There's no textbook for this class. I've used one kind of optionally in the past. They're.
Are you using the one from anatomy?
No. Yes.
No.
Oh man. Well, this is great because the point here, I don't know how many times to say this, but the point isn't competition. The point is gaining knowledge, right? So we're having a conversation and we're gaining knowledge. And that's what's important. There's no textbook. I'm really sorry. I just messed up some of these questions. So yeah. Oh, that stinks. So the whole competition thing is off. Flying zebra. Where's Flying Zebra? All right. Yeah. You're welcome as well. This is embarrassing. This is a bad way to start class. Okay, good. This one is accurate. So their lecture quizzes will never be a surprise. You always know in advance. They'll take a variety of formats. You'll know about them ahead of time, and they are worth a total of just under 20% of your class grade. And there's 6 lecture quizzes throughout the semester. And you'll have your first one the week after next. I'll give you details soon. Questions on quizzes? I'm really sorry about the points thing. I'm not gonna make excuses. Captain Hamster. Nice. You should keep that one.
I liked it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like a kids' TV show. Yes, we'll do a lot of in-class activities. Who put Fridays? I don't know. We're not going to have a class on Friday. But yeah, we'll be mixing it up a lot. That's the point of that question. Winged leopard. Dang. What's that? It's like a mythical. Who's the really? Winged leopard, huh? That sounds like an 80s band right there. Like kind of like an 80s metal band.
Yeah, I'm more enthusiastic about that one.
You'd have, yeah, exactly. They're winged. Good. So I have some study tips for you at the end of class. Studying for this class and probably all your classes, you'll be much more successful if you do it a little bit at a time instead of cramming for an exam or something like that. Just review the material a little bit each day. It's going to help you a lot. So my recommendation is to look over stuff every day. This class is kind of weird because we have like the super intense 3-day period where we have 4 hours of herpetology class and they don't have herpetology for another 4 days. So my recommendation is to kind of pace yourself out a little bit. Otherwise, by like Wednesday afternoon, you're going to be like, I don't even care about herpetology ever again. You get sick of, or you'll be like, I don't want to do anything else, and the rest of your weekend will just totally suck because you'll be sad. Winged leopard with the flame. Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad at this point, though. To be honest, the flame is good though because that. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Ask question anytime. Interrupt me if you need to. Every once in a while, I might, like, if you have your hand up, I might say, I see your hand, but let me finish this point and we'll come back to it. So we'll do that. Did you put, you'll think you're a nerd? You did? No, you didn't? Okay. Yeah. Okay. You're good at, yeah. Sid can vouch for that. You can ask questions whenever you need to. I'm glad that someone thinks, okay, anyway. Amazing chicken, focused hen, Captain Hamster, tropical possum. I like it. Good. So in-class activities, all these little things we do for 2 points here and there are worth a total of 8% of your grade. Now, 8% might not seem like a lot, right? But think about it this way. That's the difference between like a 96% in the class, which is an A+, and an 88, which is a B, right? Or a difference between a 84 and a 76. And so even though 8% isn't a lot total, earning all those points and doing that will boost your grade a pretty good amount, pretty much a whole letter grade. So, and the reason for that is it just helps keep us engaged, but then also allows you simply by participating in things. I think there's a lot of things that we can do in class that you don't necessarily need to be graded on whether you got it right or wrong, but participating is the point. So we'll be doing a lot of this stuff throughout the semester. Amazing. Who's Amazing Chicken? That was skyrocketing in there. That's good. That's good. And all the questions recently have been like the right ones too. Let me pause here, see what questions you have. Any questions so far? Syllabus, course policies, expectations. All right. Do you guys remember what it was like when you're in a classroom and people didn't have masks on? You guys remember like before, like when was that, 2019? Like 200 years ago when? Yeah, that's crazy.
The beginning of spring 2020.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is
Until spring break.
It was right up until, it was right at spring break, wasn't it? Yeah. All right, so you, this is, I'm frustrated with myself for not doing this, and I think I remembered why some of these aren't updated. I was in the middle of doing it, and then I got distracted with my kids, needed something, and then I forgot to update the rest of the questions. Anyways, neither here nor there. You don't need a textbook, to be clear. You do need a notebook in class, something to write with. I'll often do a lot of picture drawing, and then you'll take a picture. You'll take a photograph of your picture that you drew, and you'll upload it for activity points and stuff like that. If you want to use a digital notebook, obviously that's fine too, but you'll need something for notes. You may need an umbrella on some days if we go out in the rain, but not every day. Telescope, probably never. Pencil sharpener, that's up to you. Epic Wildcat. Who's Epic Wildcat? That's pretty, yeah, that's right. That was your, okay. That should be, yeah, it's like DJ Epic Wildcat. We're gonna skip this question because it's not right. Great. All right, this one's accurate. Okay, good. Good. A Tuesday. That's great. I don't want to know who it was. That's funny though. Yeah, I know a lot of instructors have a policy like you have to tell me what to call you at the beginning of the class because that's what I'll call you forever, and I can't change what I call you. I just want to make it clear that whatever you want to be referred to is fine with me. Just let me know so I can call you what you want to be called at any time. All right. Unless it's Tuesday. Focus 10. I really botched up this one. Oh, damn it. No, wait a second. This is a mess. This is making me really frustrated because I did update a bunch of this. This one's good. Good. Okay. Classes will be recorded. I just want to make it real clear here that the class recordings, who put? Get a quick. If you miss class, that's it. It's like a one and done stream. I want to make it clear that I'm trying something different this semester, and that's to post the recordings after class. I think it's a valuable resource for you in class. I can go through things sometimes. I recognize that. You can go back, you can review it, you can get the slides or the images from the slides that you need, but it's not a replacement for missing class. Also, this semester, if we get COVID and if you wake up and you got some sniffles and a sore throat and you're like, should I go to class? Should I not go to class? I'm making it as easy as possible for you to get what you missed without having to like worry about going to class. Just stay home. I'll help you get whatever you need to make it up. Very flexible with deadlines. My point is my emphasis is on communication. Let me know what's going on and we'll figure it out. So if you're not sure if you should come to class because you're not feeling well, don't. And I'm posting the lectures as a resource, both if you miss class, but then also students have asked for that. If you're in class, it can be helpful to have that material to go back. And again, those are all available in on the class YouTube channel. There's a link in Blackboard for that. Questions here? So I added some questions specifically for herpetology, and I don't see them coming up yet, and I'm a little bit miffed. No, this didn't update any of the ones that I wanted to do. It is, but I don't know why. Yeah, email me and I'll email you back. Okay, that's great. No, we just talked about this. Okay, don't skip class. We got that. Man, oh yeah, this one's good. Okay, we'll do this one. And then I need to go back and figure out what other questions. Good. Somebody knows what a payphone is. I'm impressed. So I'm trying something new this semester as well. And I have a link in Blackboard and on your syllabus. There's an anonymous survey in Google. It's just a Google form with an open box that tells me what you want. There might be times in class when something is I don't know, doesn't sit right with you. You have feedback, something happens you want to tell me about, but you want to remain anonymous. I put that form up there. If you ever need to use it, it's there. I don't know if anybody will write anything the whole semester in either of my classes, but I just wanted to try that to make sure that you had a venue for providing that feedback. One of the things that you could put in your feedback is that the Kahoot syllabus sucked. And I'm looking right now to see why. It didn't save any of the stuff that I had.
That was your job.
No, I gotta start day one right with some good old-fashioned sabotage.
You want to take over as the instructor?
Yeah, but I can say
Sorry, give me 1 second. Oh yeah, here's the updated version. Oh, it's more or less the same. Yeah, oh, you guys can see. Yeah, I did have a question about. Yeah, that's a total bummer. I just want to check this and make sure that there's no questions on here. Should we? Is it worth doing this again?
Yeah.
I think so.
I just feel like this didn't go the way I wanted it to go.
Gotta make things right.
Yeah. Redemption.
Are we friends with anonymous surveys?
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do for the school itself?
I don't know. Do they have anything like that?
No, they want no feedback whatsoever.
Oh, that's great.
The school would not be running.
All right, guys, give me 1 second here. I want to fix something.
The whole don't bother. I don't care what you have to say.
That's like literally all will. It's too late to transfer. It's too late for us.
Oh, weird.
So what are you excited about to learn in this class? I'm teaching functional morphology.
What are you excited to learn? What less excited to be on with the class?
That's a good question. I don't know. I like to practice like identifying native species. That was really cool. And like, yeah, that should be really fun. I didn't have that when I was doing Herpetology, so.
I think so.
There's like three basic types, but there's like subtypes of that.
I hate when it does that.
I have no idea. I don't know anything about this work, so. I don't know.
It's fine. I don't want to hear
What is that? What is it? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
This Saturday? Maybe. I need to check on what I have to do, but that sounds really fun.
Yeah, I think it's like $5 per entry, and then it's a really big one. So.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh yeah, they'll have like tons of things too. Like they'll have leeching geckos.
Oh yeah, some of these are important. Okay.
Oh, wow. That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I think
All right, so what I did, with great apology for screwing up, I just put together real quick additional questions that were not included in the other one. So it just had just a handful of questions. Let's go ahead and start a new game. I want to make sure we get these points out, and we have time. We're a little crunched for time. Let's do this. This won't take too long. So go ahead, log out of the other one, log in this one. Whoever won that one, you did great. And all right, I want to make clear this one's for competition. Let's bring it on, people. This one is for what matters. Dandy Sphinx. Ooh, fearless Gators. Okay, we got that. Royal Yak.
Power Gecko.
Power Gecko. Who's Power Gecko? Who is that? That's awesome.
Oh,
I need one more person. We got Lennon. Now we're gonna know. Rational Badger. That sounds like, I don't know, philosophical. Like. All right, Magic Cat. That's pretty cool. All right. There's like 5 or 6 questions here, and we're going to do this one. I don't think some of them might be repeated. I went through pretty quick, but I think I got the ones I wanted. All right, good. Yeah, some of the ones I screwed up, I redid. So you should get these ones right.
Well, because I picked the right one.
Wait, there's
Never mind, I think it's the right one. Okay, this will be how many.
Yeah. If nothing else, we will know how many exams there are.
This is good learning for you, right?
Could you imagine being like an elementary school teacher trying to do this right now?
Oh God, no! I'm so glad you guys are gracious. This is driving me crazy.
I think we should get extra credit for this.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
My roommate is been teaching right now, and like I could not just like come up with stuff for them to do. Like, what do you do? Your child play. Like, I don't know.
All right, look at this, guys. I do not quit. Like I'm sorry. This is a personality flaw, but I'm like, we're gonna get this right.
We're here until
Yeah, you're here till whenever. I hope nobody had plans tonight. I thought that said Super Bowl for a second.
Oh, I
Why would this not work?
All right, but if this doesn't work, that's it. Like we're not gonna do it. Yeah.
Maybe we should meet on Friday and try to get
Yeah, I can't wait till I get course evaluations back. Instructor was really nice, but totally incompetent. Great. It's gonna be awesome. One more person. Lennon, are you in? Cool. All right, let's do this, people. This went so well in my other class too. It really did. That's awesome that it's the first one. Yes! Who put 4? Damn it! There's one thing you're going to learn from class today, is that you have 2 exams this semester. Jesus. All right, great, buddy. Look at that. Nobody's ever had 1,000. This is incredible. That's the best anyone's ever done on one of these Kahoots. All right, this one has the right answer this time. Yes, there's no textbook. Great. Look at that. Bronze glider. Who's bronze glider? Yeah, I was getting used to the other names like Epic Wildcat and all this, and now I don't know who's who. Oh, good. We already did this one. Okay, that's fine. Great. Yep. Ask questions. Super. Thank you. Bronze glider still on top. Bright Gecko. Who's Bright Gecko? Nice job, Abby. Okay, cool. I think I had the wrong percentage on here before. I did, yeah. So it's actually, they're worth even more than I said before. They're actually worth 10% of your grade. So that's a big jump. That's an 85 to a 95, right? Cool. We're just cranking here. Bronze glider. So Wonder Lima. Damn, who's Wonder Lima? Nice job, Sam. That's impressive.
Snake hook. Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought I'd change those answers. Okay, good. I'm super happy that at least one of you is going to show up with comfy slippers and one of you with the snake hook. But you don't need it. You need a notebook. I have a snake hook we'll bring out with us when we go do stuff with snakes. Oh, this is a good one. This wasn't on the original one. Good. Okay, so note that our final exam period, this is on the syllabus. It's at like 7:30 p.m. on a Monday night or something stupid. So just keep a note of that. Those are the exams that are given to us by the university. But your final exam will be during that period. Obviously, I'll give you details as we get closer, but just get that date on your calendar now, especially those of you, I think it's at the very end of the exam period. I know sometimes people are booking their plane tickets to go off to wherever. So just know that that date and time is in your syllabus. All right. I hope the question comes up again. How many exams are there? It'll make me super happy. Oh, this one came up. That's fine. Yep, depending on what you want to communicate, the chocolate one. I'm super glad that someone picked that, by the way. Okay, and I think we have one more question. Bronze glider, rocking it. Two more. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, Dr. Octopus. What? No, it's Princeton Bond right here. I thought that would be an easy one, but I guess not. David Attenborough is busy. And, you know, I've invited Missy Elliott to do guest lectures in class or whatever. It's a standing invitation. She's always busy. Like, I'm not mad. Like, whatever, I get it. She's got to go hang out with Timberland, whatever. But she'll be around, hopefully. Princeton's a TA. Yeah. Last question.
That's oddly specific.
Yeah, that's probably not the one that I picked.
One more person. Who is it? All right, good. So every day in class, we may go outside. So when we have scheduled field trips, we're like going somewhere, I will tell you in advance as much as I can. However, part of this class, we'll be doing some field work with snakes that live right here on campus along the Delaware Run. And so anytime the weather's nice, like this spring, we might just say, all right, we're going outside today, catching some snakes. So be prepared for that, please. I will give you details about what you need to wear for that. Obviously, we're not going to go this week, unfortunately. But as the semester progresses this spring, I'm hoping we spend a lot of time outdoors. So just be ready for that. You won't need to bring anything terribly special other than like sturdy footwear and snake hook and a sun hat if you need it. But just know that we will be spending a lot of time outside. And your comfy slippers. All right, good job. Let's see who won this round. It's just like Dandy Gator, Reptile one. Who's Dandy Gator? Nice job. Wonder Lemur. Who's Wonder Lemur? Sam. Okay. And Dandy Gator, it's sorry. Abby. Okay. Abby, Sam, and who's Tropical Arc? Number one. Nice job, Ethan. All right. All right. Please give all of yourselves a round of applause. You did wonderfully. Thank you. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. Let's be back here according to this clock at 3 on the button, and we'll pick things up, okay? So take a quick break, grab a drink, stretch out. Don't sit in your chair for 2.5 hours straight. And wow, that was a disaster. Yeah. Jesus. Well, I'm glad because there we go.
Do you want to just text for class if we're going out?
Say again?
If we're going out, so I can bring my phone. Do you want to text me before class? So
I can let you know. Yeah. And we can even, depending on what works for you, you could even leave them in the lab too, and you can just do that. Oh, yay. All right, cool.
Not that you don't need, not that you really need them, but.
No, nothing changed since last semester? Okay, yeah, we'll make sure this stuff, we do stuff in Blackboard. No, that will automatically come up because what it does, Blackboard's actually put in all of your stuff. If anything ever is incorrect, let me know ASAP. Right. We'll have. Oh, actually, we'll stop this recording right now. Actually. Yeah, of course. All right, let's go ahead and get settled and keep things moving if we could. All right, so on your class program for today, you had a couple of reading assignments. One was an excerpt from this book called Snake Bit. This is overall, well, I'll talk more about it later, but overall, it's a pretty interesting book, a very fun read in a lot of ways. And you also had an article from last year, well, 2 years ago now, I guess, which is weird, 2020, about how a number of scientific institutions are renaming buildings and journals and awards and things like that in recognition of the racist history of the people that a lot of those things are named after. And there was a specific kind of emphasis on herpetology in there. They interviewed a couple of different herpetologists and things like that. So that was your reading for today. So what we're going to do right now is in a small group of no more than 3 people, I want you to talk about this stuff, right? And specifically, I'd like you to address these, the guiding questions that I provided in your program. So the first is, what's a connection that you can make between something you read and something that we talked about in class? And we haven't had a lot of class discussions yet, but there are definitely some topics that came up in the snake bit excerpt, especially in what we covered in the first class of the first lecture of class. Something you've read that you found surprising or interesting, just like, wow, I didn't know that, whatever. One thing you read that you have a question about, either because you're curious, you want to know more about it, or you're confused, it doesn't quite make sense. And then I added one, what I'm really interested in your group coming up with an answer to is, why do you think I began class with these 2 readings? Of all the things you could have read about herpetology for your first reading assignment, why am I picking these? What's the rationale? What do I want you to take away from those? So what we'll do is you'll get up in groups of your choice, up to 3 people. Princeton and I will come around and just check in with you, see how you're doing, and answer any questions you have, and then we'll kind of bring it back to the full group. Any questions right now? Okay, so we're going to do this for 10 minutes. So go ahead and break in the groups. I can help you get organized if you need to, and we'll check in. Cool. You guys You guys are good here? We'll find you. Yes. Are there any groups of 2? Yes. Mind if you can join too? Thank you.
surprising.
I feel like I was like maybe some, but like
you know, but then you're like, oh, but you know, like a basic concept. More related to, or I guess for
Couple minutes left. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up where you are with your discussion. I'd like to just bring it back to the full group here. Oh, I recorded all of that. This recording is going to be a mess from today. Oh, well. Let's put it up. I mean, you just fast forward through a section, I guess. It's easier. It would take me a lot of time to edit it, so not that much, but maybe I will. Actually, I could just cut out the chunks. All right, let's bring it back here. Again, I wanted to make sure, I feel like a lot of the readings and things that we discuss, it's a lot easier to do in a group of 2 or 3 people when you can go back and forth rather than have like the full group. So just intentional about creating that format. The conversations that I heard, the points you're bringing up as I was going around were really high level, awesome. Clearly you read this stuff, you're taking it in. What I'm curious to know, just coming back to a full group, is one, if there's anything you're burning to share with the full group, you can do that. And two, I'd be interested if a couple groups had wanted to share out their reasoning to this last question here. Why do you think that I picked these readings to start our class? We can do this as long or as short as everyone feels like they want to. So does anyone want to share out at all there? Ethan, go ahead, yeah.
For like why we began with these two.
Sure.
So I think the book itself, the book excerpt, I think it was a good start because it was about a herpetologist getting into it. So, you know, kind of as we're doing class, we're slowly getting into it. And then then it discussed, like, you know, whether or not it should be one group together with, you know, amphibians or reptiles, which is what we talked about as well. And then I think it was a good mix with that the second article as well, because that kind of shows science, you know, changing from like the standards of like the past and just sticking with it despite it being offensive, because we've always done it that way. And he kind of discussed that's why we stuck with herpetology though. So I think it was a good contrast of, even though it's something stuck in the past, we can change it.
Can't change it. Good.
Whether or not it's the best.
Yeah, right on. Thanks for sharing that, Ethan. I think you mostly got you almost entirely got the reasons why I picked those Spot on. There's also the draw of, story about a kid who's riding around with a bunch of stone teenagers driving, but that's good for any class, not just herpetology. Go ahead.
So I think my group, when we talked about on Wednesday, about why herpetology shouldn't exist, I brought up the idea that why it should exist, that it kind of shows evolutionarily how far we've come, from we thought they were more similar than they are, the two groups, and then now they're not as similar, but we haven't, or they're not as similar as we thought, and we still keep that overarching title. And then the second article kind of is breaking that idea that we need to change things that have happened in the past. So if you bring the two together, we should change the name of herpetology,
right?
Because we were changing other things, so we're trying to fix the past by taking off the names of journals, articles, prizes, whatever, that. So we should be able to change the name of herpetology.
Other changes as well. Yeah, I love what you said at the beginning too. It highlights the idea that when we look at these phylogenies, and I'm going to talk about this in detail in a second, but these relationships among these groups, it's a hypothesis, right? It's how we best think at this moment those things are related. And back in the day, they lumped reptiles and amphibians together, but now we know that they're actually pretty distantly related, relatively speaking, but that old lumping still stands. So I like what you said, because it highlights this idea that we need to recognize that these relationships are all hypotheses, and they could change as we get more information. And that's the thing about science, it changes as you get more information, except for some reason, stuff named after racist old white guys doesn't seem to ever want to change, even as we get new information. So cool. Thanks for sharing that. That was really insightful. Anybody else want to yell? Yep, please, McKenna.
I guess to kind of build off of that, I think that in both scenarios where it's if we decide to keep the name herpetology, we can and I'm not making a direct parallel to keeping racist names of animals. I think keeping the name of herpetology can be made an example of this is how we used to have it, and it's an example of science changing and evolving. And then in the case of changing the name of monuments or scientific names of journals and stuff like that, making that change can also be made a positive example of how science changes and how we can use that to continue progressing, while also bringing attention to this was the foundation of this particular field of science, and these are how this is how the science has changed over time. Along the same lines, different methods, but I think the best possible thing that we can do in terms of when we are going back and making changes to those different names, I think that we should bring attention to it in not only just acknowledging these historical figures were wrong, but also bringing positive attention to the fact that we have made good change here, and what's a positive way that we can build even further on top of that.
Yeah, and that kind of just the whole enterprise of science, right? Is to change and to grow as you get more information, to continually improve things. And it seems weird that as science as an institution is kind of reluctant to do that sometimes. Right on, cool. You guys are on it. This is gonna be a fun class. Any other thoughts on this? All right, I just to add one more detail here. We, as all of you have alluded to, and Ethan said there at the beginning, is I really want to start off class with this foundation of what is herpetology? Where did it come from? What's some of its history? We could spend a whole class on the history of herpetology, which we're not going to do because we want to learn about these cool organisms. But I think it's important to kind of know where it came from, but also where things are now and how a lot of societies are trying to rectify things that happened in the past, or to acknowledge them and to move forward in a more inclusive and supportive way for a lot of folks. Herpetology as a field is kind of on the back end of that, to be honest with you. It's pretty problematic. Traditionally very much dominated by a bunch of cisgendered heterosexual white men. And in a lot of ways, that legacy still carries through. Some of the herp societies, so generally there's these societies of different scientists that do different things. Some of the herp societies have been particularly slow to embrace change. There's a couple of them, some better than others. It's important to note that that doesn't necessarily mean that all herpetologists fit that camp either. So for example, I'm teaching herpetology, but I usually don't refer to myself as a herpetologist. I usually refer to myself as an ecophysiologist or a thermal biologist or something like that, more about what I study rather than what organisms I study. But the science is still broken up by like taxonomic groups, and Dr. Reichert and I can argue about ornithology versus herpetology or whatever. But herpetology as a field, unfortunately, has been pretty slow to embrace the recognition of some of the racist and sexist foundations of its history and its present. Actually, we can talk more about that later in the semester if that's something we're interested in. Bless you. So we got to know where we came from, where we are now, and then let's get into it. So with that in mind, let's get into some reptile and amphibian evolutionary relationships. So I'm going to offer a lecture here. This will probably be about 15 or 20 minutes and take us close to the end of class. And I want to make sure we have some good understanding about these evolutionary concepts. So let me give you a second to get settled back to your chairs. We good? Everyone comfortable? All right, so let's start off with some definitions. Taxonomy is the naming of organisms and groups of similar organisms. So it's the science of grouping stuff together that is more alike than other things in other groups, right? That's all it is. Systematics is the practice and theory of, and taxonomy can apply to anything. So like a great example, I think, of taxonomy is like Pokemon. Like you have your grass types and your fairy types and your psychic types and all, right? Water, fire. Oh, there's electric. Oh, there's so many now. I don't even know.
Dark brown rock, ice, flying.
Ice? There's ice? Yeah. See, okay. So you guys know this, right? Obviously. So that's taxonomy of Pokemon, right? You can apply that to anything. Systematics is specifically when we take taxonomy and put it in a biological context, right? And where we want, and with the goal of describing all of life's great diversity, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that lives on this planet, and we kind of want to understand how those different things are grouped together. Now, with that in mind, we need to have a definition of what it is we're actually grouping. And for that, we use the term species. Species is the basic unit of biological classification. It's a group of organisms consisting of similar individuals capable of exchanging genes or interbreeding. But it's really hard to define what a species is, especially when you look at things like microorganisms that maybe don't have sexual reproduction. So exchanging genes means something very different. Interbreeding means something very different. Can also be really difficult to in terms of salamanders, for example. There's some salamanders where you have this parthenogenic species, meaning that the females can reproduce without males. But they also have species that reproduce sexually, and they can be living together. But then you have other species that reproduce sexually, but then also incorporate the genomes of another species into their genome to reproduce as well. So you essentially have these species composed of genomes from three different other species, or for two different other species combined. And you get all of this crazy stuff that salamanders can do when they're reproducing, not all salamanders, specific salamanders. And that can really convolute this idea of species. It's not really this clean-cut definition. Nonetheless, we need to group something together when we're looking at systematics or taxonomy of organisms. And so we're going to use the term species, but we're going to recognize that there can be gray area around that, and that there are examples where what we call a species isn't clearly delineated. And there's some great examples, especially in salamanders. They do crazy stuff with their reproduction. And sometimes like the females need to mate with the male to reproduce, but they don't actually use any of the sperm from the male to fertilize their eggs, but they can't create their offspring unless they mate. It's really bizarre. It's really cool stuff. So we've got that. And then the last definition is a phylogenetic tree or an evolutionary tree. Philo just simply means, it's the Greek word for leaf, tree, leaf. Like phyllo dough is a really thin dough that they make. What's that really good pastry? Baklava, yes. Oh God, that's good. Anyway, we digress. This is a diagram or a tree that shows the evolutionary relationships among biological species or groups. And I want to emphasize that it's a hypothesis, right? As I was just mentioning, it's how we best think those groups are related, but may or may not be the correct version. We need to get as much information as we can to decide on that. It's essentially like a family tree of species, right? You can draw lines between you and your siblings and your parents and your aunts and uncles and your cousins and how you're all related. And you and your siblings are more closely related to each other than you are to your cousins, but your cousins and their siblings are more closely related to themselves than they are to you and your siblings, et cetera, et cetera. It's the exact same idea. It's about those relationships over time. And specifically here, long time, evolutionary time. So those are 4 terms I want to make sure you've got down, and I want to break this up in a little more detail here. Let me just pause, make sure you got some notes, see what questions you have on these terms. All right, let's look at systematics and phylogenics. And I'm going to start off with some examples here. I'm just going to use some primate examples around humans just to illustrate some points here. So bonobos and chimpanzees, this is a phylogeny of this group, right? So we see this line coming from over here. This means that at some point this lineage split, and it split into one group of organisms that became the species we know as bonobos, and one that became the group of organisms we know as chimpanzees. Bonobos are sometimes known as pygmy chimps. I don't know if you guys, has you read about these? Basically, like it's a little bit of a stereotype. But chimpanzees solve a lot of their problems through violence. Bonobos solve a lot of their problems through sex. Really interesting stuff. They're just having sex all over the place. And so what's important to note in this diagram here is this, what's called a node. A node is where these lines bifurcate or split. And this represents the most recent common ancestor of both bonobos and chimpanzees. In other words, the organism that's here, and this is somewhere in the past, we don't know exactly when or where, but this is the most recent common ancestor. This is the most recent organism that is the ancestor of both chimps and bonobos. And that happens at this splitting point. So when we read these trees, we're really interested in the organisms at the tips, which are bonobos and chimps, but also what happens at the nodes. And that's where things split. Now, what's important to note here is I've got this sweet little animation here, that the order of the tips doesn't matter. So I can do this, and this now conveys the exact same information. It doesn't matter if bonobos are up here or chimps are back here. What's important is the topography or the pattern of these lines and how they go back to this common ancestor. So there's no rhyme or reason why chimps or bonobos should be on top. It doesn't matter at all. The important thing is that they're both equidistant from this common ancestor at that node. Now, if we want to make this phylogeny a little more complicated, let's throw on humans, right? So now we have a more complicated phylogeny. We have chimps and bonobos. We also have humans. And this is accurate phylogeny of our relationship to these other species, right? And now we have a node back here. And this guy is the most recent common ancestor of the group that includes humans, chimps, bonobos. So we got to go all the way back here now to see where the most recent common ancestor is. So now my question for you all, and you can just shout this out, are humans more closely related to chimpanzees or bonobos? I heard one of everything in here. Holy cow. The answer, remember, we can change this. So it doesn't matter if chimps are on top or bonobos are on top. It's the same thing. And so the answer here, oops, I got ahead of myself. The answer here is both equally, right? Because the way that you look at that, it doesn't matter the order here. What you want to do is trace these back and see where the common ancestor is. And so if we look at humans and bonobos, we trace these back, the common ancestor to both is right here at this node. If we trace humans and chimpanzees back, the common ancestor is at that node, which means that we have the same evolutionary relatedness to both bonobos and chimpanzees. Are chimpanzees more closely related to bonobos or to humans? Yeah, exactly, because the most recent common ancestor of these two groups is right here, and that's more recent in time than this one. One thing I should have said from the beginning is if we're reading this, if this tree is oriented this way, we can think of this as time. We can think of this as present day, and we can think of this as sometime in the past. There's no real scale here. We're not worried about how many years have passed, but you can read it left to right on your x-axis is essentially time. You can switch these around other directions too, but that's a good way to think of it, right? And so in that sense, this most recent common ancestor for all three species is later in time, further back in time than the most recent common ancestor for these two guys. Sound good so far? Some of this for some of you, if you took evolution with Dr. Riker, Dr. Hankeson, probably some review for you, some other classes, but I want to make sure we have a solid understanding of this. Keep in mind, we can move humans too. This phylogeny relays the exact same information as when humans were on top, right? Because all we're doing is rotating around that node. And now we have the exact same topography. And so it shows the same relationships. So the definition I want you to know is topology. Oh, I said topography. That's wrong. I should be topology. I apologize for that. Topography is the study of the shapes of land. This is the study of, well, the shapes of these lines, right? So the topology is the same, and that's just the branching pattern of a tree. Did I say topography the first time I said that word? Really yeah, no, that's my bad. Topology. I don't know where that came from. So now I want to swatch this out and let's talk about amphibians. So there's there's three major groups of amphibians. I'm going to talk about two of them first. The first is anurans, which is frogs and toads. The words frogs and toads don't really have any evolutionary meaning. We call anurans that live in water and are more slimy frogs, and ones that live on dry land and are more dry toads. But that those aren't good scientific classifications, meaning that some toads are more closely related to frogs than they are to other toads, right? The whole group is called anurans. And then we have our salamanders, which is called urodels or caudata, right? So these two guys are what's called, well, I'll get to that in a second. This node right here represents the most recent common ancestor of anurans and caudata, so frogs and salamanders. And remember, we can switch these around too, and it relays the exact same information. Sound good so far, Sid? Go ahead.
Are they orders?
They are, yes, those are orders. Yep. I always have to get the, and I don't actually, you learn like phylum what is it? Phylum order or phylum class order. Yeah. Family, yeah, et cetera, et cetera. We talk about families a little bit, but when it gets here, it gets really complicated, and phylogeneticists don't really use those terms because they don't really mean a whole lot. What's important is these relationships. So yeah, but these are traditionally, you could say that Anura is an order and Caudata is an order.
I was just more asking if
yep.
you need to know the order names.
You will need to know the name of the group that includes all frogs and toads as anurans, and the group that includes all salamanders as Caudata. I generally don't use the terms order very much. I might use the term family a little bit because it kind of is useful, and you'll see why in the next class. So let's add another group here called Gymnofiona. Not only is it fun to say, they're really cool. These are commonly known as Sicilians. So here you have the phylogeny describing the relationships among the three major groups of amphibians. We have Caudata and Anura, and then we have Gymnofiona. You notice that the topology here is basically the same as for humans and bonobos and chimps. We have these two are sister taxa. They're more closely related to each other than either is to Gymnofiona. Gymnofiona is kind of the outgroup. It's more distant related to those two than they are to each other because the most recent common ancestor for all three is back here, but for frogs and salamanders, it's right here, more recent. So those are your major groups of amphibians. A quick aside, we probably all have seen frogs. You probably have all seen salamanders. Sicilians, however, are like the other amphibian that isn't as well known. Researchers don't know nearly as much about these guys as we do the other groups, but they're super cool. They're basically these segmented worms, though they're not worms. They're vertebrates, so they have, you know, they're if you picked one up, it would feel more like a snake than a worm. They live primarily in the tropical and subtropical regions throughout the globe. And they're really fascinating. And I'm going to show you a video to illustrate this because the sound might not work, but the sound's not what's important. Actually, Will, would you mind grabbing the lights? Let's dim the lights for a second and check this out.
The salamanders need to keep moist, means that they seldom come out into the open, but find their prey by pushing through the leaf litter. And to do that, it helps to be slick, fenced. Eggs are less in the way if they're small. And one great group of burrowing amphibians has lost its legs altogether. You might think that this was a giant earthworm, but if you picked it up, you would immediately realize it's got a strong, firm backbone. It's a Sicilian. Sicilians are found in almost all rainforests, but they are seldom seen, for they spend nearly all their lives underground. The female, having produced her young, stays in her nest chamber to protect them. Sicilian eyes are rudimentary. They're covered in skin and scarcely function. In the darkness on the ground, however, the animals have no need for them. The young enthusiastically lick a secretion from a gland at the end of their mother's tail, and their constant hunger seems to be the factor that keeps this little blind family together. In a single week, the young, incredibly, increase their weight by 10 times, apparently just from drinking that secretion. But could that be their only food? As we filmed, one of the youngsters revealed a clue to their rapid growth. It yawned. It already had hooked teeth like a baby shark. It surely doesn't need these if it's going to do nothing but drinking. Could it be feeding on something else? A few hours later, our cameras, for the first time, revealed the answer. There was a sudden frenzy of activity. The babies started swarming all over their mother. They were tearing at her flanks, ripping off segments of her skin that proved to be full of fat. It turned out that she really grew her skin every 3 days to provide her young with another nourishing meal. Blind, elongated, and legless Sicilians may be, but simple, inoffensive earthworms, they are not.
Cool stuff. Sicilians eating the skin right off their mom as they grow. Love it. Will, would you mind grabbing the lights again? So going back here, let's see. So this node in this phylogeny here represents the most recent common ancestor of all of our current extant amphibian groups, right? And so the questions here are Sicilians more closely related to salamanders or frogs? Neither. Good. They're equally related to both, because if you trace the common ancestor of salamanders and Sicilians back, you go here. And if you trace the common ancestor of frogs and Sicilians back, you go to that same spot. So they're equally related in evolutionary terms. And remember, you can swap those around, and that doesn't affect the topology at all. So at any node on here, you can spin it, you can rotate it, and it provides the same information. You can spin it there as well, Bring these guys down here. Again, topology is unchanged, same evolutionary relationships. And so amphibians are what's known as a monophyletic and therefore a clade. These are some good words that you need to know. Monophyletic means that it includes all of the current descendants of a most recent common ancestor, right? Which means that there's no tips on this that are excluded. So salamanders include all of these groups, so they're monophyletic. And if a group is monophyletic, we can call it a clade. So a clade is a group that includes a common ancestor and all of its descendants living and extinct of that ancestor. So in green here, you see a clade. A clade can also just be like a single branch as well. That's totally reasonable. But it can't be like this, because the most recent common ancestor of this guy and this guy is back here. And this group doesn't include all of the descendants of that most recent common ancestor. And so therefore, that is not a clade. And this is not a clade. The salamanders are a clade. Reptiles, as we commonly call them, are not. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. Sound good so far? All right, so let's go back here. Got this diagram, you're familiar with it there. Amphibians are monophyletic and therefore a clade. So I'm gonna go back to the first diagram I showed on the first day of class. Is, as I mentioned, what we call herps is not monophyletic, it's not a clade, because if we go back, the most recent common ancestor of amphibians and reptiles is gonna be back here, right? And the group that we study under herpetology does not include all of the ancestors of this most recent common ancestor of reptile, or of, let's say, snakes and amphibians, because we don't talk about mammals, we don't talk about ostriches. So the term herp, we say that it's paraphyletic, which is the opposite of monophyletic, and we say it's paraphyletic with respect to mammals. And reptiles, as we commonly call them, are paraphyletic with respect to birds, although technically birds are highly derived reptiles. But when we study herpetology, we don't include them. Commonly, we talk about reptiles, we don't include them. So that term is paraphyletic with respect to birds. That's all I want to cover today. What time we got? Oh, perfect timing. That's good. What questions do you have about this? Okay, I'm going to wrap up with just a few reminders here, and then I've got one more survey for you. I'm going to give you some unsolicited but hopeful useful study tips. The first for this class to be successful is to visit the open hours on Mondays from noon to 2. If that time doesn't work for you, email me. Happy to meet another time and go over anything you want. The other is to be sure you're following those class programs and reading, doing all your readings, keeping up with that. Again, keeping up with everything as we pace it throughout class will be much more successful than trying to cram before an exam or something like that. And the last tip is to study shorter, but study better. So here's my challenge. Instead of sitting down for like an hour, being like, I'm going to study herpetology for an hour. And during that hour, you get yourself a snack, you check your text messages, you get some messages on your MySpace account, whatever you got going on. And you spend an hour, but you really probably studied for about 5 minutes in there. Try to turn off all of your junk, close out your email tab, put your devices away, and set a timer for 15 minutes. And just focus on just reading or studying for 15 minutes. And as you feel more comfortable with that, you can increase it. But you'll be amazed at how much like high quality studying you can get done in a short period of time if you shut off all the other stuff. Then what's great about this too, is then you have an endpoint, because then you'll be like, I studied my herpetology today. I'm going to go get a breakfast burrito, right? And so it not only helps you be focused for that time, but then also gives you an endpoint, because it sucks. You guys know when you're studying, and like you have something to study for and you're kind of constantly studying for a long period of time, and then you don't study for a while, then you feel guilty for not studying. And that's just kind of lousy. This system allows you to kind of have a hard stop point and be like, all right, I did my studying. I'm going to go take a break. Just some ideas for me. Everyone's got their own ways of doing things. These are just my suggestions that I hope will help you be successful in this class. Last reminder, remember that we have our first outing coming up a week from tomorrow in the evening, and then during class on Wednesday. I'll send out a class survey. Just want to remind you that for class credit, you need to attend one of the two outings. You're welcome to attend both if you like. I'll talk in more details about the advantages of going evening. Basically, these guys are nocturnal, but we'll probably still see some cool stuff during the day. And the researcher, Ryan's going to be there during the day on Wednesday too to talk with us. So just have that in your calendar. If you want to go on that Tuesday night, that would be great. Otherwise, any questions? All right, I've got one last ticket out for you to wrap things up. This might look familiar to you now. I'm curious to see how the answers change from the beginning to the end of class. Once you do this, we're good to go, and I will look forward to seeing everyone on Wednesday. I'll stick around if you have any questions. Thanks, and thanks again for being patient with my disaster of a Kahoot today.